TVOT.
Okay, everybody, let's take a seat. We're going to have a really special presentation, and Jeff has something to also give away, right, as part of this presentation. So Jeff is the COO and co-founder of C3 Metrics, and they are very devoted to the topic of attribution, which is a super hot topic right now in our industry, which is the customer journey. You're going to explain what that is, and I highly recommend that you take him up on his offer for the attribution certification, which he's going to give away later.
Excellent. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is kind of wild because years ago, when you would do a presentation on attribution, there would be no one in the room. So now, all of a sudden, at all these conferences, it tends to be more popular than it ever was before. The other thing that's crazy is that I'm reminded today, especially being at TVOT, that it wasn't that long ago. It was probably about 8 years ago that myself and one of our sales guys was at a large agency, and we were in there talking about attribution. We happened to mention how we could measure the effectiveness of television, and we were promptly asked to leave the agency. They didn't like that very much. So today what we're going to talk about are some things about changes and how attribution is going to change business, not just from a measurement perspective, but how things are going to have an impact over time. And it's kind of shocking, but it's important to remember, how many of you here actually know who that person is? Raise your hand. All right, all of us do. That's pretty much all of us. That's pretty good, because when you go to most agencies today, they have no idea who this person is. But it's important to remember that things are not as easy as they used to be. Things are not as simple anymore. And it's because of several dates that are really important. The first date is 1976. Can anyone tell me who that gentleman is in black and white right there? Ted Turner. And what was Ted Turner? Ted Turner came around, and all of a sudden he had this great idea. There's going to be more than 3 or 4 networks. All of a sudden there's going to be cable. And all of a sudden it freaked out everybody. Now the biggest people it freaked out was the cable industry, because the cable industry came along and they said, hey, you guys, advertisers should be spending money with us in the cable industry. We're just like networks, but advertisers didn't come along, so they did a famous study that found that consumers were spending a lot of their TV watching time, about 25%, on cable versus network, and all of a sudden the dollars flew. The dollars came over, and more people were advertisers were starting to spend money in cable. That was kind of the birth of the cable industry. And then all of a sudden, everybody know who that gentleman is in 1994? Who's that? Jeff Bezos, that's right. The birth of Amazon. It's hard to believe it was that long ago, right? And think about it right now. Amazon controls close to 50% of all commerce online. So that's a big cosmic shift then. I remember that there used to be a concept called, I think it was called a macro shopper or something like that. Those were consumers that were spending more than $50 a month online, you know? And that was a big deal. I remember it was a big deal when my family started buying stuff online, and now we don't go into malls. We don't do anything like that anymore. 1998 was the birth of Google, and 2004 was the birth of Facebook. You know, before those folks were around, it used to be that ABC hated NBC and so on and so forth, but now everybody hates those two guys over there. So this is a different era that we're living in now. It's kind of crazy when you think about it. And it's really an attribution-focused world. That's really what's going on, is that it's an attribution-focused world, and we're going to talk about how that occurs today. So let's see what's happening in the world right now. Right now, TV revenues are cut down dramatically. They're saying 2.3% in 2019. You may want to cover your eyes when you take a look at this, because it does not look good. Look at the future there. This is from Magna. It's not looking good at all. It's going in the wrong direction. Definitely in the wrong direction. Now, when you compare that to how the internet is doing and how digital properties are doing, isn't this kind of opposite? Aren't things, what do you hear about Facebook? What do you hear about Google? Well, their revenues kind of look like this. This is Google here over the years. It's kind of an opposite trend, except it's even more accelerated. It's growing at a rapid rate. And if you like this, well, then you'll like this one too. This is Facebook right here. Absolutely, positively incredible. Money is going, and these two properties control, what do they say, 80, 90% of all the digital dollars are going to these two properties? It's absolutely incredible. So, And I know a lot of you are saying, well, I thought the internet was just for cats, but really it's for commerce, it's for money, and that's where the dollars are going. And this is what we call, and look at this, look what's happening now. 2018, this is the trend that we all predicted would never happen, which is 2018 is the first year where digital spend will outpace TV spend. It's pretty significant. So here we are today talking about the future of television. The numbers don't look so good. Now, it's really cool that we have all these innovations that are coming out and everything like that, but the realities are a lot different, which is why this innovation is coming along. And what is the common thread with all these things? Well, we've been talking about it all along. It's something that we call the attribution effect. And when it comes to attribution, you either will, advertisers now expect attribution. This is what they're expecting. They're anticipating it, they're wanting it, they're needing it, and you guys have all heard it. That's why the room is full. That's why you're here to learn about attribution, because advertisers are demanding it. And the attribution effect is a world where either you will be eaten or you'll eat. It's kind of a kill or be killed world. I tried to borrow as much as I could from TV movies. There aren't that many that do that. But it's a kill or be killed word in terms of attribution. So let's talk, what is the attribution effect? There's 3 components to it. It has to do with outcomes, it has to do with data, and it has to do with scale. And that's the focus of attribution, and that's how it's going to change the marketing and the media landscape that we live in today. So the problem is right now with television is that the outcomes themselves are outdated. So advertisers are living in a world where they get outcomes and it's almost immediate. They're living in a world of KPIs. They're living in a world of clicks and impressions. Now you're saying to yourself, well, that's not the way it always used to be. That's true. But most of the marketers today, most of the folks that are spending media dollars, they were this old when Amazon.com was launched. So you have to realize that there's digital natives that are running media properties today, digital natives that are spending dollars, that to them, the idea of things like ad stock and long-term effects and the concept that I'm going to spend money on TV now to convince someone a year down the road, well, they don't buy it. Also, we live in a world today where Wall Street is demanding accountability of dollars. Wall Street will not allow folks to spend dollars this quarter. They're going to have an impact a year from now. So everything is moving away from like a branding world to more of a DR world. Also, advertisers live in this world of analytics. Most advertisers today, they're used to dashboards. They're not used to getting like these single-page reports or anything like that. When you think about it, when most folks buy TV, what do they end up getting back for that television? What do they get? They get like an audit report. They get post logs that it ran. They get a bill. That's pretty much all they get. But when they buy media in the digital realm, they have a really cool dashboard. They can see all sorts of changes. They can see stuff coming in real time. Have any of you ever logged into Google Analytics and you can see like the heartbeat? There's like a real-time report. Has anybody ever seen that? Only a few of you have. You should check it out because that's what the attribution effect is about. You need to know the perspective of where people are coming from. So they live here, and you've heard this concept about how important data is, how it's the new oil. I don't know about you. I hate that term. I hear it over and over and over again. And once you hear a phrase over and over again, you kind of despise it. It doesn't really mean anything. But the truth is that advertisers are getting these incredible insights from their data. They're able to see that it takes people X number of days to go from awareness through to some sort of outcome. They're able to see how many touch points, meaning how many brand impressions a consumer has in their consumer funnel. This is very powerful stuff. I mean, advertisers have been wanting to understand and be able to map the consumer journey, and with data, they're actually able to do it. That's pretty powerful. That's part of the attribution effect. The other piece to this is that with data, you can see that customer journey. You can actually visualize it. This is an example when somebody starts with a specific channel. How do they go? How many people fall down from there? And then how they go all the way forward. Advertisers have been wanting to have this data for many years. This is why data is the new oil. Now, you apply this same type of data to TV, and what you end up with is that data enables you to know which creative is actually working. If you notice, more and more marketers today are being urged to create more versions of creative. so they can look at those differences, it's really a significant difference between different creatives. And data allows you to determine that. Data also allows you to determine which outlets and where you should be spending and determine which ones are working and which ones aren't. And the difference is it's not just the impact, but it's also the efficiency. So you're taking the dollars that are being spent and be able to look at a true return on ad spend on TV and across all these channels. And at the end of the day, data is the new decision maker for most marketers. Now, marketers who say, listen, I'm upset that my budget is being cut, I don't like it anymore, well, those marketers are not using data. The ones that are using data to make decisions, those are the ones who are seeing their budgets go up, their ROI go up. For our marketers, when they use data to make decisions, they see an increase in efficiency between 15 to 44%, increase in ROI, and in year 2, they see their budgets go up between 30 to 39%. So budgets don't have to go down, you just have to rely more on data. That's the key. So I hate to say it, but data really is the new oil because data is the decision maker. And when you put it together, we talked about one result, but this is actually a real case study. A client who used data and they were able to turn it into $7 million in additional profit each quarter. That's a lot of money that can then be reinvested and buy more television or buy more media, buy what works. So here's the key is that we talked about data. The next piece to this, and we talked about outcomes. The next piece of this is scale. So when you have something like this and you've got all this extra profit, advertisers say, I want more of that. And your job in the TV world is that you're going to give it to them. So this is where the attribution effect comes in. So everyone knows that attribution is about measurement. We talked about this. How is attribution going to change all our lives on the media side? Well, big changes are coming. So here's 3 of the biggest changes that you're going to see coming down the pike in the next year or 2. The first is that attribution is actually going to drive programming. So right now, all of you may have had experience with attribution in terms of looking at measurement, in terms of looking at how efficiency of media is purchased. It may have bitten you in the behind, or you may have been happy with it. But what happens is this. As advertisers start to dig into their media plans and they get down to that granular level, they're able to determine what creatives are working, which outlets are working, which day part is working, which programs are working, and then they enhance it with some outside data. They start to realize what type of programming their consumers want and need. They decide they want to go after a particular consumer segment to grow their business. They know what needs to be there. And when you're a publisher and they want scale and you don't have it, you're going to end up creating it. Now, a lot of you may say, oh, no, that's not going to happen. Well, all you need to do is look to the digital world. Look to the internet, your arch enemy, and look to them and see what's happening in the publishing world. Remember, in the publishing world, it was all about creatives, stories, creatives. And now what's happening? Now you have the most successful publishing platforms are content driven by advertisers. They're creating branded content for advertisers in the digital realm. So we're going to see that in TV, but it's going to scale up. Now, people say, I remember this back in the early days where writers were forced to integrate brands and they were very unhappy with it. But what we're going to see is we're going to see a different day because when creative folks are given a brand and said, listen, you can create anything you want around this brand, create something that's compelling, that's going to work, and you start at that point. Because creatives, they're riding the subway and they come up with an idea for an episode, for some sort of TV episode. But when you say, hey, listen, start not on the subway, start with Chrysler. Dig into Chrysler and come up with some ideas and create around there. You're going to see some very compelling programming that's going to come out. The other thing that you're going to see in terms of advertisers driving programming is you're going to see the pod itself. That 2-minute pod is going to change. Instead of it being cut up by 30-second spots, you're going to see more and more brands are going to take over the entire pod. And they're going to create unique 2-minute programs that consumers will not want to fast forward through and will follow along because consumers are trained to fast forward through commercials, but they don't fast forward through content, especially compelling content. So that's how advertisers are going to drive this programming. Of course, along with that, with attribution, we're going to see an explosion of product placement. Everything old is new again. It's not going to be like that. It's definitely not going to be like that. But it's going to be more innovative. It's going to be more like that. Junior Mint episode. You guys remember that, right? So that's what's going to happen. It's going to be more integrated, more deeper, but more longer lasting, and have more of an impact for the brand. Everyone knows that product placement and brand entertainment works. It's kind of the gift that keeps on giving for brands, and we're going to start to see more and more of it. Because remember, if I'm a brand and I see certain things work, what do I want? I want scale. And right now in the world of TV, there's not enough scale for me to grow. And then, of course, at the end of the day, the biggest problem for everyone in the TV world is that the brands, your customers, the advertisers, the marketers, are going to expect you in the TV world to explain everything. They're going to expect you to understand how TV works in concert with digital. They're going to expect you to understand how TV works in concert with their direct mail, with their out-of-home, with their radio, and with all the other channels that they have going on. And that presents a big problem for you because you've been living in this world, this kind of Carson-esque world where things don't work well together. You don't understand how these channels interact with each other. So the bigger change is going to be is that on the sales side of the TV house, even as things move to be more addressable, and even as things move to be more programmatic, if you will, sales is always going to be a consultative type business and practice where your sales is also going to have to understand digital and explain how all these channels work together. Because the future of this and the problem with television right now is that you can recommend a buy for a client, they execute the buy, but on the TV side, you have no idea if it's actually working or not. How do you come back with new recommendations? You don't know. There's no feedback loop. So that attribution effect is that feedback loop is going to come back and be shared not only with the advertiser, but also with the publisher as well. So for a lot of you, that concept of attribution scares you. I totally get that. A lot of you say you're going to need a bigger boat when it comes to attribution. And also the biggest problem is that attribution is one of these words and phrases that everyone co-ops. Every single product, every single new DSP, DMP, new acronym, whatever it is in the digital space, all of them have this bolt-on attribution. In fact, Amazon now has an attribution product. It gets very, very confusing. And the problem is that not only are your marketers and your customers and your advertisers confused, but salespeople are confused as well. It's difficult to know which end is up. So everyone kind of has their own version of the truth of what attribution is. So we set out about 1.5 years ago and realized that there's no standards for attribution. There's nothing that says that things have to work a certain way. There's no standards in terms of capturing data. There's no standards in place for measurement at all when you think about it. So we built out a platform called Attribution Certification to create a base level of education for folks in the industry to understand what attribution is all about. It's not a pro C3 metrics product. It just explains what attribution is, where the data sources come in, how TV works as part of that, how radio, direct mail, how all the channels come together, and gives you a base understanding of what attribution is. It enables you to have those conversations with your customers and your colleagues to know what it's all about. That's the beauty about it. So in order to get it, all you have to do, and I'm giving you back a lot of time here, which is great. All you have to do is send an email to yes@attributioncertification.com. Send an email to yes@attributioncertification.com. We will send you off credentials, and you can get up and running. It's an online certification program. And then when you get completed with it, we will mail you a certificate, which is actually a globe. There's one out at the C3 Metrics booth there. You can check it out. It's very cool. You'll sit it on your desk, and you can throw it at someone who's not certified if you want to. But so far, we've mailed about 425 globes worldwide since we launched this over the summer. It's pretty exciting because as more people start to understand this, they're going to start to understand the impact that it has on their media plans. And the end result is when people start to spend more efficiently, guess what? There's more money to spend. They can reinvest in channels that are actually working. And that's a win for everybody. So I'm going to leave you with this. Stop fighting and sign up for attribution certification. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great conference.